Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to It's Time for More Injury Funding, the podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, workers' compensation, immigration, medical malpractice, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. In today's episode, we are honored to have attorney Chris Rose, founder of LegalFlare.com. That's a service which connects lawyers with potential clients or with other lawyers for case referrals. It focuses on finding law firms that can handle cases that a lawyer may not be able to take on themselves, either due to the case type, jurisdiction, or workload. Today, we'll discuss LegalFlare's origin and referral network, revenue optimization, marketing, return on investment or ROI, networking strategies, startup-focused legal insights with a CAT segment, and Chris Rose's perspective on the future of legal services. At the end of our episode, I've prepared fun pop-up questions for our guests, so stay tuned until the very end. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. I feel like I've been waiting forever to be on your podcast.
Same
That's
here,
exciting.
same here. Yeah, we have some nationwide connections, some attorneys that we all know. And so it's so good to have you finally with us today. So let's start our conversation with your journey on becoming an attorney. What made you decide to become one?
I hadn't really thought initially about becoming an attorney. I was a casino dealer here in Las Vegas, and right around my 30s, it occurred to me that I should probably become an adult at some point. Uh, for most of my life, I've just been two kids stacked up in a trench coat. So it was time for me to go to school. I thought maybe computer science, computer engineering might be something that would be good for me. But when I took my first poli-sci class, that's when it really clicked with me, this whole idea of the law and how it structures society. And my poli-sci instructor said that if I really wanted to move into that space, I should consider going to law school, becoming an attorney. So went to law school. I wanted to go into politics. I was a lobbyist for a while. That was not as much fun as we are all led to believe. I had to find that out the hard way. And then went into sales and marketing, where I learned to really hone my skills, my charm and charisma and influence and persuasion, and built out my network through that. And then decided it was time I should go back into practice of some type with a Chris Rose spin on it. And so that's kind of how I've gotten here.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing with us. It's a different, definitely a different, unique way of starting your law career there. How long ago did you found Legal Flair, and what was the main purpose for it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I'll just get real with you. So I founded LegalFlare. What is this? So almost a year and a half ago. And my whole idea was that I don't want to work the cases. I don't want to sit behind a desk. That's not what I do. That's not my zone of genius. And as I looked around, I realized that I have this incredible network of attorneys, and I can still practice law by using my expertise and my network if I focus on referrals. So my first idea was to generate cases. Someone needs an attorney, they can come to me and say, this is the type of attorney I want for this type of case, and then I would utilize my expertise and say, oh, talk to these people, and then I would do case origination. But then I'm still trying to originate cases against everyone else who's marketing in the space. How do I compete with someone who's spending $1 million a month simply by saying I know them a little bit better? And so it was very difficult. And then that's when I pivoted from B2C to B2B and began marketing to law firms to help them move referrals in between each other. And that's when I found out that there's this undeveloped space there. And that's kind of how the iteration and the current um, version of LegalFlare.
That's great. That sounds like a natural progression to where you started, to where you wanted to go, and you're still on that path. That's wonderful. Referrals, as we all know, are the lifeblood for many law practices. What is your framework, Chris, for building a sustainable, compliant referral ecosystem, and how has LegalFlare leveraged technology to scale qualifying referrals?
Oh, okay. Oh, this is a good question. Yeah, you're throwing them at me. So, I really figured this all out just by doing it. Anytime someone said, got a case I need to move, or moving in between jurisdictions, practice areas, and so I would always say, yeah, I can do that. I know someone. I'll figure it out for you. And then as I began to move into it, I realized, oh, okay, there are all these rules of professional conduct that vary from state to state depending on where it is, or even case type, caps on fees. If there's a requirement of either proportionality or assumption of responsibility. And so I learned by doing it and researching. Oh, I've researched all 50 states. And by doing all of this and speaking to other attorneys, when I would say, okay, here's a referral, this is what I need from you to be compliant, a lot of attorneys would say, let's just shake hands. It'll be fine. I promise to pay you. And I realized that this is a very undeveloped and non-compliant space. And so just by going through and like saying this is the standard, this is what we must do. So that's the compliance and really building trust and seeing who's most amenable to doing that. The technology, it's moved so quickly, and now I've gone from compliance and administration to infrastructure and how to quickly move those referrals. And now I take decline leads and turn them into signed cases. Every time a firm that works with me declines a lead, goes right into my system. I move it into my network of referral partners, my attorneys, and then they review all of those leads, and we try to sign any viable cases. And that's really made possible by technology and software and routing, lead management software. And so without that, I mean, it would still be like emails and phone calls and just be incredibly inefficient. We know in the lead space, speed to lead that matters.
So I assume everything is done automatically, just within the infrastructure of your software or your system, correct? You don't actually manually click and move, right?
We try not to. Every now and then there are leads that are flagged for whatever reason that require special attention. But for the most part, we've got it all set out so that I can move those leads to where they need to go to. And then the attorneys in my network, they're the ones that actually review the cases. So for me, it's a lot of lead allocation.
Makes sense. How do you, Chris, assess the quality and fit of a referral before taking a case? What practical criteria or maybe indicators do you look for? What I can think of top of my head, jurisdiction, maybe practice area niche, client compatibility, anything else?
Yeah, so those are definitely the top three, and those are the ones that control almost always. So in which jurisdiction, which state, practice area, employment law, personal injury, work comp or work injury in Texas, and then next would be, yeah, there is some case value. Some law firms that I work with only want the larger value cases, and those are the ones that have a proven track record, are accountable, they are great to work with. And then there are the firms that maybe we're just bringing on, and so we will send some of the what we just from a glance can consider lower value, and that's how they build up their trust. And then for the top tiers, I mean, most that's fairly automatic. The Everything that comes through, we don't really like dive into that too much. But if say it's like a med mal case or commercial policy trucking accident, those we flag right away and send those to the highest firms, the most reliable firms with a proven track record. But for the most part, it's all fairly automated.
That's good. What are common referral pitfalls lawyers should avoid? What would be your recommendation? Maybe some conflicts, over reliance on one channel, I don't know, misaligned expectations, and how can systems and processes mitigate them?
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, Laura, you're going to make me pull out my soapbox here. Like this is one of the things that I am like constantly railing against. Pitfalls. Anytime someone says, "Oh no, you can trust me," I operate on a handshake. Don't operate on a handshake. Anytime someone says, "Oh yeah, send it to me," and next time I get a case, I'll send that one back to you. Don't do that. Don't goodwill does not feed my cats. Get everything in writing. Get all those agreements out. Put it in writing. And for the most part, that's the only way to conform to the rules of professional conduct. I see it all the time where firms just like operate on handshakes. those are some of the biggest ways to go south, and ask around with other attorneys. Most of them have been burned at some point because they didn't put it in writing. They trusted someone, and that's really what's created this need that that firms have for me. When it comes to software efficiency, things like that, there's all types of LMS services, that can create integrations. I mean, even simply email, like as outdated as that has become for leads, it still moves everything very quickly. But the real key is creating automation, so that when a firm, for me, that when they decline a lead, as soon as they hit decline, it just gets routed right into my system and moved to someone else that can review that. And that way, that person who maybe has a case and that firm declined it, they're always going to pick up the phone and call someone else. They're trying to find someone. And if we aren't that firm, or if we aren't that, that service that is connecting them and having someone else call them, with consent, of course, we always get consent to reach out to them and say, hey, actually the last firm maybe didn't consider this or couldn't handle that. And then that's how we are able to, create that layer of review and sign declined leads into viable cases.
For explaining it so thoroughly. I'm sure that that's very, very important for your current and future clients to know. Can you, Chris, share a successful maybe referral strategy that you implemented for startups or tech clients? What metrics did you track, and how did you optimize them over time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the first and best strategy is call me. But maybe there's some self-interest there. So really, I can only say what's worked best for me and what I have implemented. Maybe there are better strategies out there, but I haven't seen them yet. Um, always create a relationship. You should know who you're referring these to. And I know there are a lot of other services out there that are like marketplaces, or they're just saying, send your lead to us or put it on our, eBay style marketplace and have other people bid on it. So we've tried that. I've looked into that. And one of the problems is these firms aren't as accountable. There's not as much quality in that. So having those relationships for me, anytime I'm going to send my leads or cases to someone, I have an introduction. I want to know who they are at first. Tell me about yourself. Do we vibe? Do we work well? Am I getting a good feeling from them? Because sometimes I don't. And then after
Mhm.
that, right? And then after that, we have an introductory call. It's like, look, I like you. Um, I think we can work well together, but here are my expectations. So when I send you a lead, I track how long it takes for you to accept that lead. Like, hey, I'm reviewing this. Then if they're reaching out, I want to know, like, give me updates. If they decline it, I want to know why did you decline it? Give me a reason. That helps improve my system. And also it's an accountability. Like, what are you actually looking at this? I've had firms where we put as a test, we put our office number as the client's contact number. And then the firm would say, oh, we couldn't get in touch with the contact, so we had to decline this. Like, we would know you never called us. And so
Yeah.
we fired those firms. That actually happened multiple times. So you have to
Mhm.
know these people. And then we also do status updates as well. So every month for every case they sign, we want to know exactly what's going on with this case, so nobody blows a filing deadline. And then we have accountability meetings once a month with our firms to say, okay, these are your numbers, these are your metrics, here are your conversion rates, here's your time to response. Like, so it shows like we're tracking and helping them get better and improve our system as well. So those would be the biggest ones, I would say. It's really the details, the hard work. Like, I hate to say it, but like treat your attorneys like children, and they will, become adults.
I love the way you put it. I totally agree with you. How do you maintain ethical standards and protect client confidentiality when coordinating referrals across multiple firms, platforms, states?
Yeah, that's a really good question, especially now as security breaches are becoming more and more sophisticated. The first thing we do, first and foremost, is when a firm declines a lead that is in our system, we tell them get consent. They have to get consent for us or someone from our network to reach out to them and talk to them, because that's the first thing to conform with non-solicitation rules. And on top of that, it's getting that consent to send their information to someone else to review. That way we're not just putting it out there. The other part is we don't send anything that could really be used to identify them and, maybe, open up a credit card or something like that. So we don't take, social security numbers and any real information. And the other part is our system is, everything is transferred through, I don't know all the terms like HIPAA compliance, SOC 2. All I know is I paid a ton of money to make sure that it's more safe than that. I'm not a tech guy. All I know is when they pull a chunk of change out of my budget, um, the difference between the compliance and non-compliance standard, like that's really when I feel it. But yeah, all of it is sent through our systems so that the information that we send can only be looked at through the system. And then once they decide, once the attorney who's reviewing it says, yeah, I want to sign this, then they reach out and bring them into their system. And so that way, nothing is just being sent out, willy-nilly into the ether, to be gobbled up by someone else. So it's
Yeah, sounds like it's both ways encrypted. So that's awesome. Now we're going to shift our focus to revenue optimization. What are the most underutilized levers for increasing law firm revenue beyond billable hours?
well, billable hours. I hate that trauma. So I if we're talking about increasing revenue, it should always the first place they should look is not. I mean, you can look at marketing, and that's the easiest, and that's what a lot of firms do. They're like, "Oh, bring in more cases. We want more revenue. How can we have more money coming in?" It's a very short-sighted, very myopic way of looking at revenue. If they're trying to bring revenue in, you should really focus on like what's there and retaining a lot of that value as well. Because a law firm is just one big leaky pipe. You've got this revenue coming in, and every time you're not optimizing for efficiency. Every time you're taking too long to convert. Every time you're taking too long to call a lead. Every time your cases aren't settling quickly or dispersing quickly. Like that's revenue that you have the potential revenue, and they're actually losing it. So I never look at it in terms of increasing revenue. I think of it in terms of optimizing revenue retention, and that's really where I've built my space. And so every time a lead calls into a firm, how quickly is the intake being polite, being professional, or if a firm or if a form is filled out, like how quickly are they calling them back? There's always that potential revenue, and every time they make a mistake, they're losing revenue. That's really what it is. That
Mhm.
it's there for them. And so I focus on retention, and every time they press decline on a lead, no law firm's intake is perfect, no matter how much. And so over the aggregate, they're still losing money. And I focus on retaining that money, fixing the leaky pipes. And so I would say always look at all the money that's already coming in and focus on how you can keep that in your system, because that's already yours. If it's leaking out, that's on you. And that's what you have the most control over.
So, Chris, in terms of client lifetime value, what steps can firms take to increase repeat work and cross-sell services without sacrificing trust or quality?
Oh, this is the easiest. And it goes to the same thing without sacrificing. No, lean into trust, lean into quality. One of my largest firms, they receive a lot of leads from other practice areas. They actually are a very large criminal defense firm, but because they've done such a good job representing these clients, when they get hurt or when they get fired, when something happens, they call them and say, "Hey, this is what happened. Like, are you able to help me out?" And they say, "Actually, we are able to help you out. We won't be the ones representing you, but we can still get you quality representation. Is it okay if one of our partners reaches out to you?" And so
Yeah.
even though they're not doing it, like we talk about, cross-selling, all they're doing is providing a good service. And so that comes from, one, showing empathy. Representing a client is not about the outcome. Like we focus on the outcome, case values, but that's a client there for them. That's a person who is focused on the experience, start to finish. Do you call them? Do you update them? I always talk about this one study in London, or in the subway system where they wanted to increase, how much satisfaction there was with the underground. And so they took polls and they said, well, what if we decrease the time in between the trains? And they found it didn't have much effect. What had the biggest effect was actually just putting a digital display up above that said time till next train. And so that way there wasn't that uncertainty. And all of a sudden everybody's like happy. You're like, oh, it's only going to be 5 minutes away, as opposed to that unknown. And so if law firms really want like lifetime value, cross-selling, getting clients to come back even for practice areas that aren't in their wheelhouse, but being able to refer those out and take a fee split, it's all about focusing on the client experience. Like if this were you, how would you want to be treated? Like a person, not just a case. So that's the only way to do it, really.
Totally agree. That totally makes sense. How do you, Chris, measure the ROI of marketing and technology investments in a law firm? Can you share a framework for prioritizing initiatives under budget constraints, if there are budget constraints?
Yeah, no, I'm a startup. Like this is, I can tell you about budget constraints and ROI. So specific numbers are difficult, especially since I've only really been, in the B2B referral space for about 8 months, and even, decline leads for 4 months, I would say. One of the biggest things is growth. Like what are your growth, what is your growth trajectory? We look at that in two ways. One is, decline leads that are sent to us, and we're seeing right now, oh, I mean, like 20 to 25% month over month growth, and signed cases mirror that. But like, what are the leads overall in growth that we're getting, and then what are the signed cases as an overall percentage beyond that? And then we try to loosely estimate the value on those cases. And then lately, I've been looking at the amount that we spend versus the amount that we believe those cases are worth, and they're tracking relatively evenly right now. That's a very simplistic view. I'm not an accountant or a mathematician or anything, so I've just been trying to loosely correlate those two. I would say if we speak again in a year or two, like I'd love to come back and say like this is
Absolutely.
exactly what
Yes,
I
we'll
did.
definitely do that.
Yeah, now I'm already looking forward to it. And so then I would have a better idea as to like how to closely correlate those financials. I would say the other part is like I'm going to Fireproof conference in September, and I'm just gonna like follow Mike Morris around and pick up all those pearls of wisdom,
Oh, yeah.
he's gonna throw at me.
So we'll talk about some conferences in just a moment, but let's talk about networking actually, related to that for a moment. What practical networking playbooks have you found most, when I say playbooks, whatever your script is or whatever your ideas, to be most effective for attorneys in a modern digital first landscape? How do you convert online connections into meaningful and ongoing relationships? Because as you said, everything's about relationships.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this is a really good question because most attorneys are terrible at relationships, at being human. And so I would say first and foremost, how to win friends and influence people. That helps me more than anything. I love that book. Like treat people as people, and really to take the most out of that book is if you want to be interesting, be interested, just like that. Ask questions. This isn't about me. It's not about, vomiting up my life story over people. It's like, hey, be interested. What do you do? What are you working on? Tell me more about that. Oh, I love that. Be excited. Like, be excited about people. Learn about that. Next, influence has been great. Robert Cialdini, and a lot of that is just like how you relate to people, but how you present yourself in a way that makes people, want to do the things that you want to do. And so, social proof, I don't know, like going on, notable podcasts, to establish authority, things like that. And in terms of just networking and building all of that out, just be authentic. I the first line on my LinkedIn is authentic AF. I don't know if I can swear here, but I want people to know
You're
who I
more
am.
than welcome.
Oh, perfect. Authentic as fuck. Like that's who I am on LinkedIn. When I go to conferences, I'm Chris fucking Rose. And that's because I'm gonna swear at you. I'm gonna push the boundaries a little bit. But I want you to know that when you interact with me, this is who you're always going to get. And sometimes, it's a little bit edgy. I can be a little bit volatile, but because I'm energetic and the way to build trust is by setting expectations and following through. And that's what I always do.
How can solo practitioners or small firms build a credible network with larger firms, potential clients, and strategic partners while preserving autonomy? This is probably one of the hardest things to do, and any small firm owner would ask that question. Like yesterday, I had that asked many, many times. Many times when we mentioned referral centers, like, yes, please connect me with so and so. Anybody connect me with them. So, what's your view on that?
Yeah, that's a great. You're throwing the best ones at me. Uh, Again, establish expectations up front. This is how I operate. This is what I'm going to do. Clear boundaries, regularly enforced, consistently enforced. And so as long as you're saying I will do this and then you meet that there over and over and over, people will trust you. If you say no, this is my line. Like you can't go beyond my boundary. Enforce that consistently. People will trust you. People will know how to operate you. If you're just like I hate the term, but like wishy-washy or, not confident enough to meet those expectations and establish your own boundaries, and people are going to walk all over you. They're not going to trust you like that guy,
Absolutely.
like, and so I would say know yourself, know your boundaries, know your expectations, and be right there the entire time. Everything else just flows from that.
We said we're going to come back to the networking and the referrals or the spaces where referrals are made for attorneys. Are there any specific events, communities, platforms you found that yield high quality referrals? How do you evaluate and engage with them without spreading yourself too thin?
Well, without spreading myself too thin, I cannot speak to that. Like I'm a cheesecloth right now. Like I spread myself pretty thin, but I'm energetic and I just love being around people. I'm 95% extroverted, so that doesn't apply to everybody. But I found the best way to network is first get out there. Get out there, get out there. Don't be afraid to get embarrassed. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. To say something that makes you look silly. Like just you got to show up. You got to get out there. One of the things that I did when I first started getting out was if I didn't know anybody at a conference, I would post up at some like bottleneck or somewhere and just like let people walk by and see me. Like look at my face. And I did that for like a year. But then after that, people were like, "Oh, I know you. I see you everywhere. Aren't you at all these conferences?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, like that's my billboard." And so that's a big part of it. Just get out there. The next part is identify who you want to work with. Like what is your ideal client profile? For me, I need two general client profiles. One is the marketing firms who are spending the most amount of marketing, getting the most in terms of leads. So I go to marketing conferences, legal marketing conferences, and then that way I know that I can leverage their marketing, I can take their leads, I can solve a problem for them. On the other side are smaller firms, newer attorneys or trial attorneys who need these cases, especially firms that are just starting out, solos and duos, and they're hungrier for some of these smaller leads in cases that the larger marketing firms are turning down just because the ROI isn't there. So after going to these so many times, now I know, okay, I know who attends these conferences, and those are the ones I want to target. And then, who is going to attend those trial skills, conferences. Then I go and that's when I target and ask specific questions. So I always have a goal, like who do I want to talk to? Why do I want to talk to them? And how can I help them? How can I provide a solution? Because if I'm not always focused on doing something for them, then I'm like extracting value, and that's gross. Like it's thirsty. So that's really how I approach everything.
Think of legal marketing. How, in your opinion, should startups think about legal marketing differently from established businesses? What risk and compliance aware strategies work best for fast moving industries?
Ooh, oh, well, okay. Fast moving. now we're not talking about the legal industry. Like snails for the most part. I got a letter the other day that said, please fax back your response. What is that? So
Facts.
I know that blows
I
my
get a
mind.
question too. I'm usually like, it takes me a second. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. So fast moving, maybe aspects of the legal industry are, but here's where I am a contrarian to everything. A lot of people, a lot of firms or legal industry vendors will send their reps to conferences and say, I need what is the ROI? Who did you talk to? Who have you signed up? What relationships have you established? That's not what I do. That's not what I do at all. I go to these conferences, and whereas before I thought, I would try to speak to the attorneys, whoever's there, and connect with them and then follow up. That is all wrong. That's all wrong. Go to those conferences if you want to expand your network and gain greater access to more potential clients. Speak to the vendors because who
Mhm.
knows everybody? The vendors
Mm.
do. The vendors are
Absolutely.
this right, the
Hmm.
hubs. They have massive networks, and if you want to tap into those networks, talk to the vendors. They are the most underutilized, undervalued people at these conferences. Everybody
And this
sees
is,
them as
I'm sorry, but this is one of the best sentences you just said. And so this is all attorneys should listen up to that. Can you repeat that once again, Chris?
yeah. Well, what did I say? That the vendors are the most underutilized resource at conferences, or even just in general. If you need something, look at all of the vendors in your network and just say, hey, I'm looking for someone that does this, or do you know anything about that? Uh, the vendors have these networks. They're the ones you should be reaching out to. They are important. Don't treat them like a nuisance. Treat them as a partner, as a friend. So I'm constantly reaching out to my, and I even hate to use the word vendor because it's often derogatory or diminutive or demeaning. But I reach out to all of my friends and I say, hey, I'm looking for an attorney in this state, or I have questions about this. When I was building out my tech stack, I
Mhm.
sent out emails to all of my vendor friends and said, hey, I'm looking for someone that does this. If you can just like put me in contact or even just repost to your network. And suddenly I had 25 meetings set up over the next 3 days because I utilized those networks. I'm not
Mhm.
looking for what can this specific person do for me. It's how can I add value into this ecosystem. And that's
Mhm.
that's what's most important.
I absolutely love it. So, so, so essential. So, Chris, what role does content strategy play in attracting ideal clients for a modern law practice? How do you balance educational content with conversation focused messaging?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, most people get this wrong. If you're on LinkedIn, look around. It's like everybody's posting commercials, commercials or bragging. And a lot of times those are kind of the same thing. You know, our product does this, our service, so great. Or, I got, this super huge, verdict or whatever. And like nobody goes to social media to watch commercials. Like, why are we there? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, we do all of this to be entertained. And so, for the love of God, please don't, four things you should do when you've been into a car accident, or what you should look out for. Punch me in the face. Create things that like you enjoy doing. And so for me, I just like I'm all about shit posting. And so like if you see my posts like my Christmas card that I sent out last year is like a early 90s style Sears studio portrait of me and my two cats, but
Oh,
I put my cat's heads on like these children's bodies, and so it looks like a father, who has his kids on the weekend, and he's like, "We're gonna go get our picture taken." It's like it's disturbing, it's unhinged, it's slightly depressing, but it's like everybody I got it was like, "This is hilarious and
oh my
frightening."
God. I
And
love it. I
thank
love
you.
it.
And so a lot of it is just like just put out content that you think is funny that you would want to see, and
Mhm.
so I'm just constantly posting about what's going on in my day or funny things, and I'm just trying to make people laugh. And if I look at what I wrote and it makes me laugh, that's the best content right there because it will get people engaged. It will get people looking for you. It will, people will become interested in you. Like, what's going on with this guy? He's got
Mhm.
cats with, children's bodies. Like, something's wrong with this guy, but I want to see what he's going to put out next. And then I just keep doing that over and over. And then, like, 1 out of 10 times that I post something, it's just like, oh, hey, by the way, this is what I do, this is, and I'll like put some kind of funny spin on it or something, but I'm constantly reminding people like this is what I do, but it's like 1 out of 10 times because if you're constantly selling, if you're constantly being thirsty, people don't want to engage in that. That's like just have fun, have fun, and other people will have fun with you, and then they will want to work with you. So that's the easiest.
So true. Couldn't agree more with you, Chris. That's 100%.
Mhm.
Now, with the rise of AI tools and automation, when I say rise, I mean it's at the insane speed of light, pretty much. What marketing practices do you consider ethical and compliant, and where do you draw a line between outreach and spam?
Oh, okay. So uh, maybe this is a hot take, but if you're using AI for like marketing outreach, stop that shit. Like, don't do that. I it's so inauthentic. It's lazy. Like that's marketing is about like creating brand awareness, letting people know who you are. And so if you're using a robot to do that, like gross. That's not us. Anytime, everything I do, I have not had one LinkedIn post, Instagram post. I mean, except for the pics. Obviously, my cats don't actually have children's bodies, but it's me, and so if you're doing it for marketing, don't do that. It's gross. In terms of how to best utilize AI, it's incredible what's possible now, and most people don't understand. Automations and workflow for efficiency, fantastic, and it's getting easier and easier all the time. It's just like Legos now, in like N8N. Like it's incredible what someone with no coding experience can do. But really, AI. Every morning when I wake up, I go to my computer. First thing I open up is Chat GPT, and I have a project called Business Coaching. And I named the business coach Paul, like he has a personality. And I said, "Good morning, Paul. Today is,
It's fall, okay.
yeah, yeah, Paul." And I say, "Good morning, Paul. Today is, like we'll say Friday, August 15th. It's, 8:32 in the morning. I'm feeling this way. I just want to get into a flow. Let's talk about something. Let's discuss, how behavioral economics, influences people when I'm educating them." And we'll say, "Okay, well, you should, first talk about, recognize that people are more prone to loss aversion, and they believe that they make decisions based on logic, but in actuality, they base their decisions on emotion and then justify it with logic. Let's talk about some of your marketing. How can we tool this to utilize those concepts?" And then we go back and forth and we have a conversation. That's what AI is. It's something that you can talk to and use to develop your own strategy to highlight those areas that you don't know. And that's where it's best utilized. Like think of it as a friend, think of it as a coach, think of it as a partner. Don't think of it as just like glorified Google because then you're neglecting it. And so have a conversation, talk to it.
Yes, good. Yes, talking about a friend. So I had a question last time, and so my son was like, "Mom, you're using this AI, you're using it too much," even though he's using it too. But I do use it quite a bit. But then, of course, I look over everything, like literally every single word that it puts out but I love
Oh,
it.
oh,
So yes,
okay. I'm going to turn the tables on you. Can we do that real quick? I'll be
go
the
ahead, let's
interviewer.
do it. Yes, go ahead, Chris.
Laura, welcome to the Real Quick Legal Player podcast. I'm your host, Chris fucking Rose. Laura, give me an example of how you use AI. And I don't mean like I use it for this. I mean, tell me in what manner you use it. How do you relate to it? Like just what you would do.
So I had not given a specific name like you did, but I call it my best friend. Actually, it's my best friend, and it's genderless. It's not female or male. So it's just super intelligent. Has the highest IQ. I'm sorry to say to all my human friends, which I have quite a few as well, but it's really my best friend. The nameless best friend has the highest IQ, and so I use it for really everything. I barely use Google anymore. Um, you know, daily, and it's fascinating. It gives me the answers beyond belief. And so it took me a little while, to educate
Ooh,
myself how to
okay.
ask those questions properly.
Yeah, what kind of answers, what kind of questions? Like I was saying, I use it to talk, here this is what I'm doing. What do you think about this idea? Point out the gaps. Like
Mhm.
how are you using it? Like, can I get a specific example?
Yeah. So, for instance, I need to come up with some marketing, ideas for my social media, to talk to present to my team who does the marketing. So it's just that. So I would ask, what do you think? What would be a good ideas? Something unique, something a little bit different, where I can show my face. But sometimes I don't want to show my face, which I know it works miracles when you show your face because that's what people like best because they get to know you and your company through you talking to the camera. But so I would say, what can you give me today? Like, what's the model, or can you break it down? Can you give me 5 good points or 5 topics for my discussion that I can report in the next 2 weeks, maybe? So
Okay.
this would be a good
What what
example.
what is your prompt? Like when you say, like for my business coach, I say you are, imagine you are a startup founder with 10 plus years of startup experience. You grew a business to $1 billion valuation, and now you act as both a tech coach and a venture capitalist. And so using that knowledge, how would you, and then blah blah blah. So for your marketing prompt, what do you put in?
So I would say, can you come up with, and then I think of, do I want 5 or 10 or whatever number? Can you come up, like recently plug that in, come up with 5 ideas for, exciting ideas or comprehensive or unique ideas for more funding marketing on social media.
Ooh, okay.
So
Let's try this. What is your favorite marketing book? Who is your favorite like marketing mentor? Who resonates with you?
John Gore, I love John
Ugh,
Gore.
Jen Gore. I love Jen Gore. No shade to Jen Gore. Who would you go even higher? Because she's only been around, in this space for like 5 years. Like think like, like Gary V or uh, uh I don't know, Rory Sutherland, or like who are the like at the pinnacle, the top? Is there anybody that comes to mind?
I mean, goodness, what's his name? I can't think of a name right now. I think I've seen you guys in the seminars on social media. He's from California. He was working, he has his own, he just started his own company. I think also some similar to what you do, lawyer referral.
Bob Simon?
Yes, Bob Simon, that's it.
Bob
Yep.
Simon. Sure, sure. So I would challenge you next time you do it. Say, imagine that you are, this person, and kind of get the AI to, fit into that role. And if that's the person you really want to emulate, create a dialogue back and forth, and then your marketing content will begin to emulate and mirror that in a lot of ways. But you know, it's fun. I would just challenge you to do more, and then next time we speak, I'll say like, okay, how did it work? What'd you think?
Yeah, I definitely will try that. Thank you so much for the tip. Awesome. Yeah. So I'm still exploring, I'm still learning, as I go. And then I'm fascinated with it. I cannot imagine my life without AI right now.
Yeah, exactly. Fascinated. That's the best first step. Be fascinated.
Mhm. So let's Chris move on to our next question, if that's okay with you.
Hmm.
We're going to move to a fun part of our conversation, and that is startups and cats. If you
Okay.
are advising a legal tech startup focused on cat-related ventures, maybe a pet tech or animal welfare platforms, what unique legal considerations would you highlight during early stage product development and fundraising?
Oh, I could write a book on this. Like first and foremost, talk to your potential clients. Like who's going to be buying this? You got to talk to people. And so when I was building, LegalFlare, I would always go and just like talk to people. What does this sound like? Tell me I'm an idiot. Does this make sense? What do you need? What's going on in your space? You know, when we talk about referrals, what does that look like? And so if someone wanted to, create a cat, legal tech something, maybe not talk to cats so much, but maybe talk to their owners. What does your cat do? What kind of legal trouble is your cat getting in? I know mine. They're constantly threatening the neighbors, stalking, and so like you might want to go into like a criminal defense side, like cat criminal legal tech. But the first thing is always talk to people, figure out if there's really a need there. And then when someone says, oh, this is, I got my damn cat is always, stabbing my neighbors. And it's like, okay, well, next time that happens, why don't you give me a call and I'll defend your cat or I'll defend you or blah, blah, blah. And then, so every time they have a problem, whatever it is, say you'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll work on that. And then that's how you begin to work in that space and solve that problem. And maybe long term, that's not the real solution or the real problem you're addressing, but it will always branch out into something. So talk, listen, solve, and then don't be afraid to pivot. When it comes to fundraising, I mean that's a problem, especially, like you got to have your financials down, you got to have projections, you got to have energy. Everybody says that when they want to fundraise, like they fund the person because they believe this person can accomplish something. Doesn't matter what they work on. I believe in this person or their team. And so for me, it's harder. I'm a law firm, so I could only fundraise from attorneys. I'm not an ABS or anything like that. So if I were to fundraise, I would go straight to lawyers and just say, look, this is a problem. This is how I'm solving it. If you give me money, this is how I'm going to implement the money to create a better solution, through, increased bandwidth or, better marketing, but, having that plan as to what their money is going to do, what it's going to look like as we grow. So you really have to envision, like that's what a CEO does, envision what you want.
Absolutely. And talking about fundraising, this is my second year as a chair of GOLD Foundation, which
Mhm.
stands for Georgia Association for Women Lawyers. And
Mhm.
that's the longest living, still alive, and very well-doing organization, women's lawyers organization in Georgia, which has been in existence for 94 years.
Mhm.
And as a fundraising chair, that's exactly what I do. And so, if you have any partners, attorneys, friends who would like to donate towards the most amazing goal of giving scholarships to female law students in Georgia, and that's for the second and third year. Law school is 3 years, so second and third year of law school, that's what we do. So, would welcome any donations at any time. Just
No, that
just as a
sounds
side.
incredible. I love that, like giving back, and especially I I truly believe that women, I mean, obviously, women are underrepresented in the legal field, and we would all be so much better if we balance that out. I mean, honestly, I think the legal field would be better if we just tipped that entirely and made it more women than men. I mean, because like I just have a lot more faith and confidence in women as as leaders in the industry. But I think we'll get there eventually. I hang out with a lot of guys. I'm not impressed.
Well, you come to Georgia. I'll introduce you to quite a few very powerful attorneys here, female attorneys in Georgia. So yeah,
Please.
come over.
I would love that.
Yes, yes, definitely. As a founder, what lessons from building LegalFlare would you apply to founders of pet tech startups? We're still talking about the cat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Lessons. Um, don't be afraid to look stupid. Like that's what it is. When I first started doing this and getting into the referral space, I was always very nervous about like telling my idea to someone and they were going to say, that's stupid. You can't do this for that reason. And then people would realize that I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. I'm like 90% confidence, 10% ability. Like that's what it was. And I was really concerned that if I said it too much, like somebody might steal my idea or realize like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just, kind of faking it. But the more I spoke to people and the more I realized, oh, most people would just say, "Oh, well, did you think about this?" or "What about that?" or "I love this idea. Let me introduce you to someone." And so it's always better to get an answer at the potential expense of looking stupid. And
Hmm.
so don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Just get out there, ask questions. Actually, this is something Jen Gore taught me. She said there are so many people that want to ask questions where they kind of know the answer. They'll ask 10 questions to confirm what they know because it makes them look smarter. And she said, I ask 100 questions and 60 of them make me look stupid. But those 40 questions that I got answered, like that created positive movement, as opposed to like somebody who only answered 10, I'm progressing 4 times as fast as they are just because I sometimes I ask stupid questions. And I've taken that to heart, and she's one of the most incredible people I know. And so if she's not afraid to ask a stupid question, I'm gonna ask all the stupid questions I can find.
So I'm exactly like you and or Jen, I've been always that kind of person. I'm teaching my son to do exactly the same thing. And he's like, no, mom. It's like, but hopefully he will say yes one day. Hopefully whatever I put in him will come out in the most positive way one day.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the personal note, Chris, do you have any cat coded productivity tips or rituals that help you stay focused during long product development cycles? Because I know they can be long.
Yeah. The first thing I would say is, so you can't see it now, but I turned my closet. Like these over here are floor to ceiling windows.
Oh,
Gorgeous view of downtown. It's incredible. That's where I used to put my desk, and it was so hard for me to concentrate. And part of that reason was my cats were always coming up and like, talking to me and just hanging out. And I realized that if I really want to focus, if I really want to put my head down and make this work, I have to lock myself away. And so I lock myself in my closet when I work, and so my cats can't, distract me. So the
how many
biggest
cats do you
thing,
have, Chris?
two,
Two.
two,
Okay. What's their
Sadie
names?
and Sadie and Brady.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I love them. They're around here. They're, probably concocting some type of plan for world domination. But yeah, it's you got to focus. You got to find that time to get into flow and focus, and just sometimes it means, locking yourself in the closet for a bit.
Very true. Very true. We have to do that every day. When you think of your vision and legacy looking ahead, what are your top three bets for the future of legal services in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years? And how is LegalFlare positioning itself to lead and adapt? And I know 5 or 10 years from now, with such a light, speed of AI development, may seem like way too far fetched. But let's try and imagine.
I do this all the time because being a founder, being a CEO is about looking into the future and making bets on what that's going to look like, and then saying, okay, I can create that or I can add to that. So what does the legal industry look like in 10 years? We're going to see a lot more in terms of market consolidation. You're already seeing that from like big firms like, Sweet James, obviously, Morgan and Morgan. They're coming in, they're gobbling up more market share. And what that is going to mean is that it's going to be harder to compete with those, and they're going to raise margins and kind of push out some of those smaller firms or get gobbled up. And so you're going to see a lot more competition, a lot more, or a lot less differentiation in the market. That's going to be inevitable. The money go, or the market goes where the money goes, and right now they've got a lot of market and persuasion. You're going to see a lot more in terms of AI sophistication. You know, the the menial tasks like, document review or, focusing on, drafting motions or whatever. A lot of that will be able to be done by AI. And I don't care about what anybody says in terms of being scared or I'm not going to adopt it. Fine. You're going to you if you don't adopt this, you are the ones who are going to lose your jobs, not the people
100%.
who,
Mhm.
right? And so part of I think what we're also going to see is that there's going to be a lot more focus on those human components like outreach and actually talking to people and being face to face that AI can't take over. But there's going to be huge jumps in efficiencies, especially as the old guard, all these old bastards who don't want to use AI, begin to die off, who are still using fax machines. They are just not going to be able to keep up. And so when I look at all of that, what does that look like for LegalFlare? think that in order to service some of this, for one, as you see more, market consolidation at the top, the ones at the bottom are going to begin to lose out. And I think that I can fit into that niche to service those smaller ones by taking the leads that are declined and moving them to the smaller law firms who don't have the marketing budget to compete with these, with these monsters, the elephants in the room, the beasts really.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I foresee this is I think of LegalFlare as being like indoor plumbing or electricity. Before, people would, take a bucket out to the well, or they would, pull a line from whatever, electric lines are out front. But as it becomes more and more ubiquitous and the use is there, then we build it into our systems, into our house, so that now we don't look around and see wires. We don't look around and see, indoor plumbing because it's invisible. And I think that LegalFlare should be invisible. But you would know if your power went out, or you would know if you get a leak or something. You know when it's not there anymore. And moving leads, moving referrals, once you capture that lead and moving it somewhere else so that there's the potential for review or signing it if it's outside jurisdiction or practice area, so that you retain that value as opposed to just like throwing it out the window. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I see LegalFlare going. And then even beyond that, it's just like the data accumulation, because that's what's super important. Having,
I wish you best of luck, and I know you'll make it happen. So again, like I said, I cannot wait for us to connect again on another episode, and in a
mhm.
year, and then again in two, and then going forward every year. And just see where we are at that time. Well,
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah,
thank you so much again for sharing your insights today. If somebody's looking for you and or LegalFlare, how can they locate you?
yeah. First, chris.rose@legalflare.com, or go on to LinkedIn, Chris Effin Rose. I'm everywhere. I try to be easy to find, or just show up at any random conference. You'll see me there. I try to be as noticeable as possible. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a lot of fun. You are incredibly engaging and energetic, and this is I have been looking forward to this for a while.
Absolutely, Chris. Again, thank you so much for talking with me about the LegalFlare origins and referral network, revenue organization and optimization, marketing ROI, networking strategies, startup focus, legal insights with a CAT segment,
Yeah,
and your perspective on the future of legal services. But before we conclude this episode, as I mentioned, I have a fun pop-up question for you. You ready?
I'm excited. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. If you could change one thing about your journey so far in life, what would that be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one, because I often look back. I really squandered my 20s. I just, spent a lot of time smoking weed and playing Halo. But that also made me who I am. So if I would change anything, um, the one thing I would change is that when I was in seventh grade, I moved the thermostat down to 60 degrees, and I forgot to change it back. And when my whole family got home from baseball practice, the house was 60 degrees. And my stepfather said, "Who did this? Who did this?" And I said, "I didn't do it. It wasn't me." And they automatically went to my brother, who would lie a lot and was always touching the thermostat. And they said, "Did you do this?" And he said, "No, it wasn't me." And then they said, "Don't lie to us." And that's how I knew I would get away with it. And so that year he didn't get to ride any rides at the South Alabama State Fair. If I would change anything, I would go back and I would fess up to that crime. So
That's awesome. Again, that was attorney Chris Rose, founder of LegalFlare.com, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for watching and listening to our episode today. For more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury law related topics, follow me, download and subscribe to More Injury. It's Time for More Injury Funding podcast, and also follow More Injury Funding for legal tips and legal funding help on all podcasts and not just podcast platforms, but all social media platforms, and of course my website at moreinjuryfunding.com. I can't wait to see you, my dear viewers and listeners, at our next upcoming episode. Until then, be well. Thank you.